I just feel like I've been around the block, ripping up fantasy stock, working around the clock. Look at the view from the top. Researching rookies a lot? No, I just be listening to pods, yeah. One in particular, I'm just a messenger, let me just pass on the rock. Browning, brunning, pruning, pronouncing ain't what he's doing. What he's doing is not losing, but infusing you with new things. And there's Dennis the Bennett, yeah. The man is a menace, yeah. Building a dynasty, some of the finest things. Promise you, you won't regret it. Sly as a fox, cultured in pop. Give him his props. Here is a thought, here is a box. And you cannot compare them at all, so don't even try. Careful with the news, but when you use a take, I take up Tony Fire. I mean Dyer, because anyone else is a huge mistake. Whoa, fantasy roundtable, fantasy roundtable, yeah. Fantasy roundtable, come take a look at the crown, baby. Hey, fantasy roundtable, fantasy roundtable, woo. Fantasy roundtable, come take a look at the crown, baby. Go.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Fantasy Football Roundtable podcast. It is Friday, and that means the Week 4 preview is upon us. October football officially begins tomorrow, but we still have one more September game to look at from last night. We will get to that in a minute. We are proud members of the Pigskin Podcast Network. You can find all our shows following the hashtag TPPN. I am joined today by Dennis. Matt will be with us in a minute, but Dennis, are you ready for the weekend?
I am so ready. My wife has gone to Albuquerque for the weekend. It's just me and the boys. It's going to be a shit show.
Well, you know, being a shit show would be a good segue to last night's game where the Miami Dolphins came in and brought their 3-0 record into Cincinnati to face the Bengals. They lost 27-15, but the bigger story undoubtedly is the hit put on Tua Tagovailoa. He was thrown to the ground and looked to be in obvious mental distress, was taken to a hospital, was released and allowed to come back with his team, but clearly suffered a concussion, what some believe to be the second concussion in 5 days, although the team says he didn't have one the game prior. Still, Dennis, it was a grim sign when Tua went down. His arms appeared to be locked in position. They brought him out on an ambulance. Should we be worried about him long term?
I don't think you worry about him long term any more than you do any other NFL player that gets concussions and knocked in the head, which is, you know, literally all of them. That's a part of the game, and we have to be aware. And I know that there are efforts being made to make the game safer, but it's an inherently physical game, and stuff happens. There was nothing untoward about the hit. I mean, I don't think it was a dirty play by any stretch of the imagination, but he did hit his head when he went down, and he clearly was concussed. As far as what had happened last week, you know, it doesn't look great, but, you know, and I get the desire to not want to believe what you think you're seeing, but I also, you know, are they really going to risk their medical license to let him go back in? You know, that's the hard part for me. I don't really think that doctors, you know, yeah, would it be maybe less messy if they truly were unaffiliated and maybe didn't work for the teams or NFL in some capacity? Sure, it would be less messy, but they don't have a vested interest in taking risks with their job.
Now, there's obviously an investigation that was underway that has nothing to do even with last night's game, because it started based on the NFLPA being concerned about what had happened the week before. If they were to find something, we're talking about a Dolphins team that already kind of got jammed up this offseason because of some recruiting violations. What kind of penalty do you think they'd be facing?
Probably loss of draft picks. You know, I think that's what hits teams the hardest, fines and loss of draft picks. I think the draft picks actually hit them harder because the NFL teams make money hand over fist you got to be trying really, 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 really hard to lose money owning an NFL team.
I think the good thing for me is the Dolphins obviously playing a Thursday night game. They get a little bit of a layoff before their next game. I personally am hoping Tua gets a week or two off. I'd like to see him right. I think he was having a good season. I think the Dolphins have a good team that has some potential, and it would be nice, to see him be healthy and to hope that he is fully healthy. Matt has come on to join us. I know I saw you make a few posts today. We were just talking about Tua. What were your thoughts on that situation and that hit?
Not great. I talked a little bit about it on our college football morning show. I don't want to dive too much deeper into it. It's definitely unfortunate. You feel for Tua. Obviously, there's been a lot that's come out today. I'm trying to figure out the way to word it without being, I personally think that they lied to everybody about that. I've never really dealt with much of a bad back injury outside of like pulling something. I've never seen anybody who's dealt with a back injury though stumble around like he did in that game. In my opinion, it was probably something with concussion, or even if he cleared concussion protocol, it just did not look right. I feel for him. As I mentioned on the morning show this morning, I've actually had a friend of mine in high school pass away because of dealing with concussions like this, where you get multiple concussions. I think people don't really understand sometimes how important that is and how deadly and dangerous it is, and the impact that it puts on your brain. My sister has had, I think it's 8 concussions, was a goalkeeper in soccer, and now there's certain things that she can't do in her life because of that. I've dealt with concussions playing soccer my entire life. Like it's a dangerous thing. And I feel for Tua. I feel like the Dolphins clearly put him in a bad situation. Anybody who's played any kind of competitive sports knows that when you feel fine, you want to be out there and helping your teammates and playing. And I really think that's probably the position he was in. Someone should have been the adult in the room and told him he could not play this weekend. And so to see that happen again, I just feel like I'm definitely glad that Tua's right now okay. I hope that he continues to be okay, because the one thing with brain injuries or the one thing with concussions is you can be fine 1 minute and things drastically change within a second. So I hope he continues to move forward. I know he's back in Miami, back with the Dolphins, back with his teammates. So I'm just going to keep hoping and praying that he is going to be okay. And I guess my biggest thing is I really hope that the NFL does look into this as much as they keep saying they're going to do, to find out if there was any negligence on the Miami Dolphins side. And just like I said this morning, I like Mike McDaniel. I think he's a great head coach. If they knew he had a concussion and they throw him out there, I hope he's fired. I hope the whole Miami Dolphins medical staff is fired, if that's the truth. If it's not, then it is what it is. Really bad look. Maybe it's not what all of us think it is, but it doesn't feel right.
Yeah, I just don't think that the doctors that cleared him have any. There's nothing in it for them to lie.
There's a paycheck for them to lie.
They're doctors. Doctors get fucking paychecks.
You'd be surprised
they can
how
walk
much money
away.
Doctors don't make.
No, I wouldn't. But you can walk away and say, no, I said he couldn't go in, or I was pressured, and there's a segment out there that if you do that, they're going to, maybe you don't work in sports again, but maybe, you're going to still have a very lucrative job.
What's interesting?
I wouldn't lose my license over it.
What was interesting to me, they were talking about on NFL radio. Apparently the way the protocol works is there's a team doctor and there's an independent doctor. And if they disagree about a player, the team doctor then gets to be the tiebreaker. I'll be curious to see what comes out of were they
Yeah.
both in agreement, or is there some kind of a dispute? Because that's where you start to get into, or maybe he passed all of the tests. Sometimes people
Yeah.
can
I
pass those
mean,
tests and you don't
it's
see it right away.
it's possible, but it reminds me a lot of I feel like I'm gonna get the first name wrong. I'm pretty sure it's Tom Savage. It feels a lot like the Tom Savage thing from the Houston Texans a couple years ago, where I think he was like 3 days in between. Like, I'm not a neurologist. Might surprise some people. I don't know. I'm just gonna let everybody know I'm not. I'm not a neurologist. Did not go to school for it.
But you're a head
So,
coach, so
I don't know, but I would
That's
imagine.
true. You do have to make those decisions on the sidelines for the
I
Rams.
do. They're very important. I would imagine anybody who had a concussion, it's really hard for me to think that even if he passed whatever protocols, rarely do we see guys go back out there 4 days later after something like that, especially looking the way that he did. And while I agree with the premise of what you're saying, Dennis, and not losing your license, I think the one thing a lot of people in just life in general overlook is not everybody's a good person. Like
that's for sure.
You would sit there, you may be sitting there saying, like, I would never do something like that. There's a lot of people, I think we can all agree, we've probably met people in our lives that would 100% would not care. If it meant something more for them on the side or whatever, doesn't care. And they just assume, because there's a lot of people, I won't lie, I've done things in the past where I've done something I knew at the time at my job was not the right thing to do. But I was like, you know what? They're not going to find out. So why does it matter? And then it was not something that could cost somebody their life, like just possibly happened with Tua. But that's, like I said, we'll see what happens. I'm going to be honest. And I said it this morning, I doubt anything comes from this because we've seen it happen in the past and nothing happened to the Texans when it happened with Tom Savage. And thankfully he was okay. And he's been able to, as far as I know, live his life healthy. Let's hope the same thing happens here for Tua and that he's perfectly fine. And we'll see him back in a week or a couple weeks and continues to have an incredible season like he has. But if we do find out something, I'm going to be very curious to see what happens to the Miami Dolphins and the doctors and who all was involved.
I think there's two takeaways from this. We've learned that not everyone's a good person, and also that soccer is incredibly dangerous and should be banned everywhere so that I no longer have to see it come across my television.
I will say really quick, not that anybody cares, like I actually have this discussion with my wife all the time because both of my sons play soccer. And she won't let them play football because she's worried about the head injuries. It's like there's
at least you get a helmet in football.
Better shot of getting a concussion in soccer. Like it's a dangerous sport. So
outside of Ted Lasso, we should not allow soccer. On the
World Cup this year, man, I can't wait.
Can't wait to see the U.S. flame out.
They'll be all right. They'll at least make it to the group, out of the group stage.
Speaking of flaming out, for the Bengals, Joe Mixon got a touchdown, but he also had 24 carries and mustered just 61 yards, 2.5 yards per carry, drags his yards per carry average even lower. He's now averaging more than 20 carries per game, and his yards per carry is right around 2.6. Dennis, how concerned should we be?
I'm not concerned yet. I mean, he's getting volume pretty consistently. He's, the offensive line still needs to gel a little more. There were a couple times where he almost got clear and he stumbled a little bit and wasn't able to pick up some chunk yardage. I think he's going to be fine. It's, we said on Friday, he was probably one of the, other than Burrow being sacked, he's probably the biggest loser in the amount of time it's taking for the offensive line to gel. I feel like he's still going to have a real good year. What did he have last night? 24 carries and he had 28 touches yesterday. And luckily it was a close game. I'm probably is, are we worried about Chase? Because he's not putting up much either.
Is Chase still on the team?
I wasn't sure. I was hoping you guys were going to be able to break that news to me. I thought he was gone out or something happened.
I thought it was just Hayden Hurst and T. Higgins.
Yeah. So, I'm not worried yet. And if I have a contender, I may be interested in seeing what the price is, especially if I have a need at running back, and if I can get it a little cheap. And he's what? He's in his 5th year now. So in Dynasty, even if I want to take a chance, because he did sign an extension, I believe. And so he's going to be around a couple more years. And let's face it, Samaje Perine is no threat to him.
Yeah, I won't claim any. If this works out, I don't want to claim any of the hit in this, but I also don't want to take any of the blame if this is wrong. But I do feel like I believe John Hansen said it this morning on Fantasy. I forgot what the name of their show is, but anyways,
Fantasy Football Mornings.
I feel like that's what it was I was listening to for a little bit this morning before I switched over to Ray Garvin's Wake Up. I believe either based on their model or something else, right now Joe Mixon has projected the most fantasy points like available to be scored moving forward. I think he's going to be fine. The Bengals have just been bad. Whether it's the offensive line, I think some of it's definitely on Joe Burrow, we've talked about. I think Mixon's going to end up by the end of the year being fine. So I'm kind of with Dennis. Like, I think I'd trade for him right now if you can get him. Someone's really panicking on him.
Yeah, I think I said it before. I think the offensive line probably has more to do with Joe Mixon's issues and Joe Burrow's issues than anything else. Well, 1 game down, 15 games to go. So let's dive into the week 4 preview. And guess what, guys? Our favorite is back, the London game. We get our first London game of the season on Sunday. It is at, I think they said it was 9:30 a.m. Eastern time. So it'll be 7:30 in the morning for me, 6:30 for California, and the Hawaiians might as well just stay up overnight. The 2-1 Minnesota Vikings travel to play the beat up 1-2 New Orleans Saints. Matt, any concern about the Vikings fantasy assets against a tough New Orleans defense?
Yeah, not only the tough New Orleans defense, just the fact that they're going to London. We've seen that these games are not always very conducive for fantasy points. So I think I would be very worried about actually everybody in this game. I mean, Justin Jefferson has kind of been locked up a little bit the past couple of weeks, barely going over, I think, 50 yards receiving. Dalvin Cook's supposed to be playing, but he's dealing with a shoulder injury, something that's extremely easy to get injured again. So, like, he may go out there and after 1 tackle be out. I think you've got to start those guys, but I'm not expecting the world. The one guy I would watch, I don't know that I'm starting him, but I might, is KJ Osborne. Had it felt like that breakout game, I know it's dirty, but he had that breakout game last week. And I feel like he's going to continue to be the guy that's not. He's the third option for them, but defenses won't pay attention to because of who Adam Thielen and Justin Jefferson is. But I don't expect this to be a high-scoring game.
I don't think Vegas expects it to be either. The over/under is only 41.5. So they're getting dinged for being in London. For me, London game couldn't have come at a better time. My wife has gone to New Mexico for the weekend from 9:30 in the morning until midnight Sunday. My kids are going to hate me because it's going to be all football. But I don't know. I think Osborne. I think it's going to be a Justin Jefferson game. I think Kirk recognizes that he needs to get him the ball a little more consistently. Jefferson just hasn't been producing. Trying to look to see where he's at in the mix here. I mean, he's wide receiver 10, buoyed by a big week 1. So they'll bring it back around. Maybe take a little bit of pressure off the running game by throwing a little more. I know they have faith in Madison, but Cook will be out there wearing the harness. So.
And the good thing for Vikings fans and Dalvin Cook rosterers is he is pulled off the injury report. Dennis, on the flip side, Jameis Winston, it's officially listed as doubtful, hasn't been practicing. Everyone's planning on Andy Dalton. Michael Thomas also ruled out. Is this a big Alvin Kamara game?
It's a big Chris Olave game. I don't know. Haven't you watched the last 2 weeks? Man, Olave may have 20 targets this week. Unfortunately, he's got Andy Dalton, so it's probably a big Jarvis Landry game now that I talk my way through this whole process. Kamara is still playing dinged up a little bit, and they don't have anybody to run the ball at the level that they need it besides him. It's going to be a rough game, I think, for Kamara because he doesn't, he's just not as good at running the ball as he is at catching it. Maybe Dalton circles back and gets him the ball and behaves like Drew Brees, but I don't know.
Sticky fingers. We talked about the Tua thing at the beginning of the show. You can also check out, did like a 15-minute video that posted this morning where I gave kind of my honest, raw thoughts about the whole thing. Not a fan of what happened yesterday. As for Kamara, I mean, I think at this, you've got to play him, but I want to see it. I mean, dude's not played really a snap. I mean, he played a little bit in game one, and that's it. And we didn't see a lot, so I need to see it from him. I don't know. I feel like the Vikings defense has been really good. Again, I don't think it's going to be a good game. Very intrigued to just see what happens between these two.
Yeah, I am taking the Vikings.
As am I.
So am I.
On to a game that's near and dear to you guys' heart. The Cleveland Browns 2-1 into Atlanta to battle the 1-2 Atlanta Falcons. Matt, I know you were big on David Njoku prior to the season. He had a huge week 3. Will that continue?
I hope so, but I don't want to. I don't know that I believe in that. He's also dealing with a knee injury. I believe he missed practice Wednesday, but came back Thursday. Or no, it was Thursday, came back today. So I expect him to be out there, but I just feel like that was the game plan, and it just worked for them. I mean, the Steelers gave up some plays earlier as well this season, 2 tight ends. We had kind of talked about it on the Wednesday show. I felt like that was kind of the matchup for them to go to. With them getting Atlanta here, I mean, that's probably the matchup. I think it's going to be him and Amari Cooper. The big thing is I don't think Atlanta's rush defense is good either. So if they continue to rely on Chubb, like how much volume will there be for Njoku? I'd start him mostly because it does seem like he is one of the first options as they get into the red zone as well. So if he continues to get red zone looks, he should be a good tight end for fantasy.
Dennis, on the flip side, we saw after a lull in week 2, Kyle Pitts got very involved in week 3, catching 5 for 87. The Browns have struggled at times covering a tight end. Is that more good news for those who have Kyle Pitts?
Yes. Pitts rose from, he was like tight end 41, I think, after week 2. He's tight end 15 now. I think Arthur Smith is figuring out, get the ball to your good players. And, while he didn't really have this I guess he did a little bit with A.J. Brown. Say he didn't have more than one good player while he was in Tennessee. It was just Derrick Henry. But, no, they've got, with London and Pitts, they've got some players. I think Patterson might be out this week, so we might get to actually see what Tyler Algier looks like carrying the load a little bit. But I feel like the Browns have shown some explosiveness. We know that Atlanta's defense isn't great, so it wouldn't surprise me for the Browns to get up a little bit and Atlanta to go away from the running game, which would really benefit Pitts.
Cordero Patterson did practice today, officially listed as questionable, but I would agree with you. There's probably a chance we see a little more backs mixed in there, which is a bummer for my sit-start call this week. I am taking the Browns.
I mean, I want to take the Browns, but hell, they were up 21-7 on them. What was it, a couple of years ago? And Nick Chubb's first game where he really broke out, and they came back and beat them. So I'll still take the Browns.
All right. Browns for me too.
Is this the fantasy
time?
Is this the NFL game picks equivalent of negging? You neg somebody so that they play better.
Yeah, I can't ever pick against them. You could be like, they're going to go up against the Chiefs. I'm like, taking the Browns.
On to the NFC East, where the 1-2 Washington Commanders head to Dallas to face the 2-1 Dallas Cowboys, although we should point out Cooper Rush undefeated as a starter. Dennis, for the Commanders, Antonio Gibson still getting a lion's share of the backfield work, but he hasn't been incredibly productive. How are you feeling about him going into week 4?
I think it's going to be iffy against that Dallas front. Dexter Lawrence is playing really well. Micah Parsons, probably the best defensive player in the league, not named Aaron Donald. So they definitely have some ability on that Dallas team. Even Leighton Vander Esch I saw out there last week playing, so he hasn't been injured yet this year. So
Step in the right direction.
But it's a new week. Hey, now I think Gibson is producing. He's RB11 on the year, I think. So he's doing pretty well. Jahan Dotson, I know he didn't get a touchdown last week, but he did have 8 targets, even though he only brought in 2. McLaurin and Samuel are both playing good. Logan Thomas, back from injury, seems to be looking good. I've been really struggling with who I was going to pick in this game, but I do think that if you have Antonio Gibson as your RB2, I think you're okay. I'd roll him out there with confidence.
On the Dallas side, they've had some players banged up. One of those is Dalton Schultz. He's still officially listed as questionable. If he plays, Matt, are you rolling him back out in your lineup?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, tight end's kind of a dumpster fire, but it seems like the Cowboys have figured out their QB situation. I mean, they've got future franchise quarterback Cooper Rush back there this week. I don't even know if Dak's going to have a job when he comes back. So I think
Jerry hopes it's a competition.
Obviously kidding. Dalton Schultz, though, I think, I mean, if he's out there, I think the Cowboys are seriously lacking receiving options right now. CeeDee Lamb looked like
you see that game Noah Brown had?
Look, I actually unfortunately had to start Noah Brown.
The good news is Michael Gallup is also off the injury report.
Yeah. I just said a minute ago I wanted to see something from whatever player I was just talking about. Same thing for Michael Gallup, because yikes. No, but Dalton Schultz has proven it. Even when Dak has not been in there. Who was it that was it Dalton a couple years ago? Who was the quarterback that was in there when Dak was hurt that he really started blowing up with?
Yeah, it was Andy Dalton.
He
likes those redhead guys, dude.
Yeah, well, who doesn't? I was going to make a very inappropriate joke. I'm going to leave it there. I think if Dalton Schultz is available, you play him.
Now that the ginger savior is in town, I for sure cannot quit you, Dallas. I'm taking the Cowboys.
I thought Wentz was the ginger savior. I mean, he's on his 3rd team. He's been making the rounds saving teams.
What has he saved?
I'm taking the Washington football team.
I'm taking the Commanders as well.
I like how you stuck true to that. They should have kept football team Commanders.
I agree.
I concur.
Yeah. On to a team near and dear to Dennis's heart, the Detroit Lions, who at 1-2 play host to the 1-2 Seattle Seahawks. Matt, is there a Seahawk that you would trust in your starting lineup?
Nope.
Accurate. Dennis, on the flip side, Amon-Ra St. Brown and DeAndre...
Wait, I take that back. If you have a fullback spot, you can start Ken Walker since he's been playing fullback for the Seattle Seahawks. Outside of that, we're good. Sorry, forgot that part.
Dennis, Amon-Ra St. Brown and DeAndre Swift have been ruled out. Jamal Williams was huge last week. Is it another big Jamal Williams day?
Yeah, I know. We've seen Craig Reynolds step up and perform well. I don't think Jamal Williams really gets much more work than he's been getting, but he's been getting a big old chunk of work. So I mean, he's probably in line for 20 touches. And Reynolds will be the change of pace guy. They like Reynolds a lot. I just think that to me, I think Josh Reynolds is the guy you watch. We've seen him flash. Now he's going to have an opportunity here with St. Brown out. I know they don't specifically play the same role in the offense, but it's now or never for Josh Reynolds.
Your lips to my fantasy lineups ears, because I had to slot them in somewhere when I lost some players. I am taking the Lions.
As am I.
Clean sweep.
Which is never a good sign. We'll pour one out for the Lions. On to a big matchup in the AFC South, where the Tennessee Titans at 1-2 are facing the Indianapolis Colts, who are 1-1-1. Matt, you got to ride the lightning on this for the last couple of years with the Browns. Austin Hooper was a big free agent signing for the Titans, who has been a non-factor. Is he basically done as a fantasy relevant option?
Yeah.
He was done last year.
Yeah, he was done when
There
he
was
left,
some optimism
Atlanta.
about the signing, though, that he might look like he was.
I didn't think so. I mean, my big thing with him in Atlanta, I feel like a lot of people said it. I don't think it was just us. He was getting volume in Atlanta. That's what boosted him up. He wasn't getting that in Cleveland. I feel like at times they forgot he was even on the roster. And I mean, Tennessee. Surprised that you ever would hear this out of him. Tennessee is more of a dumpster fire than the Browns were a couple of years ago. So I mean, I don't think it's bad. Nah, he's done.
Dennis, on the flip side, if Michael Pittman's in, you're playing him. You're also playing Jonathan Taylor. Aside from that, is there any other Colt who's been contributing regularly enough for you to feel confident throwing him out there?
Not at all. It would have maybe been Pierce, but then he got injured and he missed time. And, then Paris Campbell leads all the wide receivers in snaps and gets like 2 targets. That was not terrific. Ashton Doolin has flashed a little bit, and then they're not even using Nyheim Hines like a lot of us hoped they might, because they didn't have a great second option at wide receiver. So, for me, it's Taylor, it's Pittman. I know that Jelani Woods had 2 touchdowns, but he was third on the team in snaps. It's fool's gold.
But you didn't see the tweet?
Points.
He has more
Pittman,
touchdowns
Taylor.
than Kyle Pitts now. Jelani Woods, obviously.
I can't wait till Frank Reich is fired.
You know what? The biggest bummer for me is there was a couple places where I grabbed Matt Ryan thinking he would be a decent number 2 option in a super flex league. That has not panned out. This is a Sophie's choice, but I'm going to go with the Colts at home.
I've been trying to. I picked the Colts. I've been trying to find a reason to pick the Titans, and I haven't been able to make one up that I'll buy. So
I'm gonna take a tie because they both suck.
Yeah. That would be ironic.
No, I'll take the Colts.
Now on to the possibly worst matchup of 2-1 teams in the history of the NFL. The Chicago Bears at 2-1 battling the New York Giants at 2-1. One ray of optimism for you, Matt. David Montgomery has now officially been ruled out. Is it Khalil Herbert's season?
1,000%. When we talked about it on Wednesday, he was in my top 10 at running back. Looked amazing last week. I think he's realistically the only Bear you can start. So get him in your lineups.
He's not realistically the only Bear. He's literally the only Bear you should be starting. Yeah, Dennis, on the flip side, poor Sterling Shepard, leading the team in targets, tore his ACL in non-contact. He is out. Wan'Dale Robinson still out. Kadarius Toney been ruled out. Is there a piece of the Giants' pass offense you feel confident in?
It depends on how you're defining confidence. But, Richie James has been producing, and, obviously they're going to throw the ball to Kenny Golladay 3 times. And then David Sills, but you don't really have confidence in anybody except Richie James. And then Daniel Bellinger, he caught 4 passes on 4 targets last week. So maybe he's the guy. Probably 20 carries from Saquon and 20 targets to Saquon. So
that would be wonderful. I'm kind of with you. James is the only one. Much sadness for me with my Kenny Golladay shares. I am still taking the Giants.
I was on the Giants, but I'm buying into Khalil Herbert, and I think the Bears are going to have a better game. Justin Fields is going to get to throw the ball 12 times, but I'm going to ride that running game, taking the Bears.
I'll take the Bears. I don't really want to pick this game. I'll take the Bears.
From a dumpster fire to possibly one of the games of the week, the 2-1 Jacksonville Jaguars head down to Philadelphia to battle the only undefeated team in the league in the 3-0 Eagles. Dennis, Trevor Lawrence has been on fire of late. Any concern about this stout Philly secondary?
Darius Slay has been playing really, really good. They just had somebody go down in the Philadelphia secondary, going to be out. And I forget who it was I was reading on Twitter, said that they're likely going to start Chauncey Gardner-Johnson in his place.
Avonte Maddox,
Yeah.
corner, is out.
So it looks like Chauncey Gardner-Johnson is going to be the guy on Kirk this week, and they feel like this analyst intimated that he felt like that Kirk could win some of the matchups there. He wasn't going to have Slay on him. So I think Kirk and Lawrence are going to be just fine.
On the flip side, I mentioned the Eagles are the only undefeated team. Matt, are they currently the best team in the NFL?
I wouldn't say the best, but I think that they're up in that conversation. I mean, and you've got, well, maybe they are the best now. Actually, I think about it. I was trying to think of, but Kansas City's kind of struggled. I don't really know anybody else in the NFC that I would technically take over them right now. AFC's kind of struggled compared to what we thought they were going to do. So, I mean, that offense has looked good. I think they've got an incredible defense. If that defense continues playing the way that they are, clearly Hurts, it feels like, is continuing to slowly take a step forward. So maybe they are. Feels very weird to say that, but
I picked them to be in the NFC Championship game preseason. I'm feeling a little bit better about that. There's still time for me to feel sad, but I'm feeling better right
someone picked them to make it to the Super Bowl and lose. But I didn't have them in the Super Bowl. No, wait, did I? I got him losing in the NFC Championship game.
Yeah, I think we both did. Yeah.
I think I had him. I think I, again, for the second year in a row, had the Packers in the Super Bowl winning. Whew, that was a bad decision on my part.
Anything can happen. I'm taking the Eagles in this game. I like the Jaguars, but I'm taking the Eagles.
Same.
Yeah, I was looking for a reason to pick the Jags, and I just can't get there. So Eagles.
Touchdown Jesus.
On to another part of Pennsylvania where the 1-2 New York Jets will be battling the 1-2 Pittsburgh Steelers. Matt, Zach F. Wilson, as Felix would say, has been cleared and is set to make his season debut. What are you expecting?
Trash. Hell, honestly, I don't expect him to be good. I think you're starting Breece Hall. In my opinion, he's looked like the better running back so far this season. I think with Joe Flacco, they've actually been extremely pass heavy with Flacco out there. I think they go back a little bit more to the run with Wilson out there. But I mean, I want to see it. Wilson was extremely up and down last year, and he is his. I don't think the Jets are doing him any favors sending him out there against a very good Pittsburgh Steelers defense. So I don't know that he has a good game this week, which affects all of his receiving weapons. So let's see what happens. I don't want to just write the kid off after one weird year, but I did not think I would be comfortable. Well, Conklin, take that back. After what Njoku just did, I feel good starting Tyler Conklin. That's it.
You know, you have a point maybe about the Steelers, but after the Steelers, it's home against the Dolphins, at the Packers, at the Broncos, and then home against the Patriots and Bills. So this might actually be the softest spot to vault Wilson back out there. Dennis, on the flip side, the Steelers still getting Mitch Trubisky on Sunday. Can they get this offense going against the Jets?
I think so. I mean, they've got 3 really good receivers, and well, the line isn't doing great. I think it's going to do well enough that, you know, between the 3 receivers and Freiermuth, that they're going to make some plays. You know, and let's face it, the Jets aren't great, and I'm nervous about Zach Wilson coming in, turning the ball over early, you know, trying to shake off the rust. All viable things. I think that the Steelers will, you know, they're going to keep doing what they do. They're going to give the ball to Najee 15 to 18, maybe 20 times. They're going to throw the ball 30 times, and they're going to get it to their explosive wide receivers who will make just enough plays. I don't think it's going to be a blowout by any stretch, because I don't think the Steelers are that good. See, it's a 41.5 point over under And the spread, whoops. See what the spread was on that.
I think it's -3.5.
Yeah, -3.5. So I'm I think the Steelers are going to get some offense going. I'm going to be tempted to take the if I'm betting it, I'm probably taking the under on it though, even at only 41.5.
Yeah, our friend Ricky took the Jets and the points as one of his bets of the week. I think the Jets may cover the spread, but I'm still taking the Steelers. I don't see them losing 3 in a row.
Steelers for me.
Give me Pittsburgh.
On to one of the other better games of the week, and just so you're keeping track when you're watching at home, almost all the games this week are early window games. There are only 3 late window games, and they are all mediocre at best.
Don't you just love when they do that?
No, it's awful. The 2-1 Buffalo Bills travel to Baltimore to take on the 2-1 Ravens. Dennis, the Ravens' pass defense has been somewhat suspect so far this season, and you know who has a good pass offense? That would be the Buffalo Bills. Are you pretty excited about the matchup for the Bills' offensive players?
Yeah, the thing is that the Ravens, while they struggle some, they do make some big plays. Marcus Williams is a ball hawk. He can create some turnovers. I think the Ravens are, they're going to be able to rise to the occasion, and we've seen Miami stifle Buffalo, and we saw Miami and the Ravens in a shootout. So it's definitely possible that the Ravens can hold on. And Lamar Jackson is having an MVP season, so I'm not writing him off yet.
Heading over to the Ravens, it's this game 2 for J.K. Dobbins. Matt, do you think he'll get it going a little bit?
A little bit. I still would be hesitant to start him because Buffalo's defense has been. I mean, you just mentioned how good their offense is. Their defense has also been very good this year. That's the team that I probably could have said was better than the Eagles, and that's it. Going back to the original question. Anyways, or earlier question. So I still want to see it from Dobbins again. He's coming back from a massive injury, according to him, with the meniscus, MCL, hamstring. Like he ended up apparently tearing like 3 or 4 different things in his leg. I just want to see him continue to progress forward. I wouldn't start him this week, but I am hoping he has at least a decent game.
Probably another big week for Justice Hill coming out of nowhere. I am taking the Bills in this one.
I'm going to go with the Ravens. I think they win it at home.
Nobody circles the wagons like the Buffalo Bills.
Speaking of circling the wagons, Justin Herbert and his banged up ribs are heading down to Houston. The Chargers are 1-2. The Texans are 0-2-1. Matt, the Texans have struggled against the run. Could this be a good game for Austin Eckler?
I think so. More so because I think the Chargers really need a bounce back game in a big way. Keenan Allen ruled out again. Just kill me. I have a lot of shares of Keenan Allen, and it is destroying my teams this year. But I do hope you get back soon there. Keenan, still one of my favorite players in the league. But I do think they have got to get this offense going, and I think in doing that, you have to get Eckler going as well. He has not looked good running the ball. He's still done pretty good in the receiving games. I think they get him going here against a bad Texans defense.
It would also help if Herbert remembered that Mike Williams was on his team the same way that we'd like Burrow to remember Jamar Chase is on his team. On the flip side, Dennis, we came in pretty much thinking Brandon Cooks is ever reliable, doesn't seem to matter quarterback or situation. But over these first 3 weeks, we've seen his targets and receptions decrease every week so that he only had 2 receptions for 22 yards last week. Aberration? Or is he still a set it and forget it player in your lineup?
I think he's probably, wide receiver 3 flex kind of guy. And to what extent you set and forget, wide receiver 3 or 4, I guess he still is. Houston's making some strides, and I think that Davis Mills will dial it back in with Brandon Cooks. Cooks is going to do just fine. I'm not worried about him. That was weird. I was there all by myself for a second.
I think we all got booted out for.
Yeah, it was very awkward.
Yeah. But no, I think Cooks will be fine. Long term, I think he's in good shape.
Brandon Cook's agent just almost ended the show. So
Yeah,
I'm going to
he's
say Brandon Cooks. So
phenomenal. Phenomenal.
I don't feel confident about it, but I'm taking the Chargers.
As am I.
Go Chargers, go.
On to another battle of sad teams. The 1-2 Arizona Cardinals travel to Carolina to take on the 1-2 fighting Baker Mayfields. Dennis,
No,
Rondale
it's
Moore.
the losing Baker Mayfields. We can't call them the fighting Baker Mayfields anymore.
Rondale Moore is questionable. He has not yet been ruled out, so he could potentially make his season debut. If he did, would you play him, or do you think it's still Greg Dortch season?
I think it's still Greg Dortch season. I think they're going to work Rondale back in, and they're going to notice that whatever Rondale Moore does, Greg Dortch seems to keep doing better, and they're going to wise up, and they're going to put Rondale back where he belongs. I mean, Dortch has really earned the opportunity, and at some point, I mean, it's not like Rondale has proved that he should be on there 100% of the time. He hasn't had a stellar career at this point by any stretch. And I think sometimes you just got to take the guy that's had to fight for everything. And when he got the shot, he made the most of it and is playing well, and let him keep playing well.
On the flip side for Carolina, Matt, DJ Moore's picture is already on a milk carton, and now Christian McCaffrey is questionable with a thigh injury. If he were not to suit up, what would you make of this Carolina offense?
That it's going to look as bad as their defense after Greg Dortches them. I really wish you were coming to me. I was getting ready I was having all my Dortch jokes lined up, and then you had to throw it to Dennis. No,
Did you see the Matthew Berry went with the human Dortch?
I did not, but that works too. I was going to say, it's like, have you ever seen Rondale Moore do anything? No, he can't. He hasn't torched anything, but you know who does? Greg Dortch does. I was lining him up, just getting ready for it to get thrown to me. No, I don't know what to do. It felt like the reporters were trying to set up DJ Moore to say something inflammatory. Good for that young man for dancing circles around a very difficult question. For anybody who has not seen that, just go look it up. I think if CMC's out, I don't think you can start anybody in this offense. I mean, Baker just doesn't seem to be right. This offense doesn't. I mean, their best game came against the Browns. That's it. Like, there's really not been much since then.
Yeah, one could say their offense is offensive, which is why I'm taking the Cardinals.
As am I.
I'm not happy about it, but me too.
And that was the first of our late window games. The second of which is the 1-2 Mac Jones-less New England Patriots at the 2-1 Green Bay Packers. Matt, Brian Hoyer is in at QB. Jacoby Myers questionable, so could play, but is there a Patriot that you would want to suit up in this offense?
Just Brian Hoyer, the destroyer, baby. That is it. He's going to destroy the Green Bay Packers. Damian Harris, Ramondre Stevenson. I still think that they'll get their run. The Packers were really, in my opinion, kind of built against were a very good defense the past years in stopping the run and the pass. I feel like the stopping the run part of their defense has struggled a little bit this year. I think that they will rely heavily on those two with Brian Hoyer being out there. Outside of them, I don't know how you can trust it. Like, maybe one of the tight ends shows up, but my God, if you're having to start one of them, prayers up to your fantasy team because they've been horrible for 2 straight years. So,
Dennis, on the flip side, we've seen Romeo Doubs been picking it up going through the season. Week 3, he caught 8 for 73 and a touchdown. Is it another good game for Doubs?
You know, when you get to flex players, you're looking for upside. You're not looking for floor. And Romeo Doubs is just that. It could be it could be Alan Lazard this week. It could be Randall Cobb. It could be Bob Tunyon. Who the hell knows who it's going to be for Aaron Rodgers this week. But Romeo Doubs is as good as any, and he came out last week and showed that he could handle some volume. So I think they'll try to make it work with him. Hopefully he handles the coverage okay. If Doubs makes the right decisions and is where he's supposed to be when he's supposed to be there, Rodgers is going to throw him the ball. So for an upside play, I'm flexing him all the way.
I hope it's Aaron Jones. I'm speaking it into existence, and we know it won't be slamming Sammy Watkins, who, to no one's surprise, is already on IR. Nothing about this game makes me think the Patriots have a chance, so I'm picking the Packers, which will probably bite me in the ass.
Yeah, I'm taking the Packers as well.
The final late window game is one that's near and dear to my heart, especially since I will be flying and in the Las Vegas airport while this is taking place. God damn you, Russ. You better play better this week. And that is the 2-1 Denver Broncos.
You got one more week, Matt. One more week.
At the league's only 0-3 team. I'm going to lean hard into that. Matt, can the Broncos and Russ get this offense going?
Not really sure exactly how you want me to answer this. I think it's going to be this offense is going to work about as well as his cringeworthy videos that have been put out lately. I don't know what's going on. I don't know.
Videos are a treasure. I don't know what you're talking about.
They're somebody's treasure. I don't know about a treasure. I don't know if it's Hackett's play calling. Maybe Russ just. I hate that these words are about to leave my mouth. Maybe Pete Carroll was better for us than we thought he was. I don't know. This is a very weird situation. I really hope they get it going, but man, this is just it's awkward. It really is. I don't really know what else to say.
You know what? My only hope is Melvin Gordon's dealing with an injury and was iffy to play.
The problem,
I'm leaning into it. Man.
The problem is like.
They'll probably give Mike Boone 27 carries.
Yeah, probably. Russ
Mike
is
Boone.
playing like he's I don't know. Just it's bad. I'm not going to continue. Just
Dennis, on the flip side, Hunter Renfrow is out, and we already know Pat Surtain is going to match up against Devontae Adams. Mac Hollins has been pretty good of late. Are you feeling Mac Hollins in week 4?
You know, that 6-year breakout's something. But back to Denver, the Raiders have given up the 8th most passing yards so far in the NFL. So there is hope for Russ and Cortland.
Only Cortland, though. I've seen Jerry Jeudy play.
No, I think Mac Hollins is definitely somebody you might take a shot on. He's probably a flex play. And Josh McDaniels saw him have a good week. So there's also, it's just as good a shot that he gets 7 targets and 5 catches, that he runs 29 routes and doesn't receive a single target. So
for reasons surpassing understanding, the winless team is favored here in Las Vegas. And you know what? The revenge narrative in 2022 has been hot garbage. It will continue to be hot garbage for Josh McDaniels. I am taking the Denver Broncos.
I'm going to go with the Raiders. I think the Raiders are getting revenge on, Josh is getting revenge on the Raiders for letting him, or the Broncos for letting him go. Man, that was a hot mess.
That's why I said that everyone that's tried to make their hay on that revenge narrative has lost so far this year.
I'm going to take the Raiders.
I'm going to take Dangerous and the Broncos. But I don't feel good about it. I don't.
Oh no! It's the same way you felt when you picked the Browns. I don't feel good about it. I'm gonna go shower after this, but
so I'm about to go cry in a corner again. I'm just not expecting that for my Friday night, but I guess that's on par.
Sunday night football game, which is staying in Tampa Bay. Prayers to all those in Florida who were affected by Hurricane Ian. But the Kansas City Chiefs at 2-1 are traveling to battle the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who are also 2-1. Dennis, Patrick Mahomes going against a stout defense coming off of kind of a mediocre week 3. Can he get it going in Tampa Bay?
Well, I think over the last few years, he's shown the ability to beat Tampa. They're not playing any kind of different style. So it's like, it's like 2 old buddies meeting up on the court playing one-on-one after school every day. I just think it's he's going to have to bring out the best in some of those receivers. Sky Moore has flat disappeared, but MVS and McCole Hardman, Juju are going to have to turn in some production. But fortunately for them, Brady hasn't looked great. So, and CEH, maybe he's fool's gold, but he's producing this year. So I think he's having the best year of his career so far, even though he's been getting out-snapped by Jerick McKinnon. But, in Patrick we trust.
You're telling me they didn't draft Sky Moore to be a punt returner? I was told that was the case. Matt, on the flip side, we know Mike Evans is going to be back. Chris Godwin and Julio Jones back to practicing. It looks like Rashad Perriman will be out. If Godwin and or Julio are in the lineup, do either of them interest you for fantasy?
Godwin definitely does. Don't ever play Julio. Don't do that to yourself. It's not worth it.
You don't want an aging, washed receiver who's playing on a torn PCL?
As the Michael Jordan meme says, stop it. Get some help. You don't need to do that to yourself. I would definitely start Godwin. Would not expect the world of him. But Tom Brady needs some help, man. I mean, Russell Gage was targeted 50 times last week. I only caught like 8 balls for like 100, but still, Godwin's going to help that. I think if he gets out there, he should end up having a good game. I will be starting him over DJ Moore because DJ Moore sucks. DJ Moore doesn't suck. Baker Mayfield sucks.
I was like,
damn it, Baker.
DJ Moore's like, what did I do? And you know what? You actually oversold Russell Gage. He caught 12, but he only got 87 yards.
Oh, okay.
I'm taking the Chiefs. If the Chiefs would have lost in week 3, I think Tampa Bay might pull it out, but I don't see the Chiefs losing back-to-back games.
I'm going to go with the Bucks.
Chiefs. Give me Chiefs.
And credit where credit's due. It was Jeff McClain who said that Chauncey Gardner-Johnson would be on Christian Kirk. I just found that tweet.
Yeah, that'll be an interesting matchup. On to the final game of the week, Monday Night Football, and it is a doozy. The 2-1 Los Angeles Rams head to San Francisco to battle the 1-2 49ers. Matt, we saw Cam Akers take another step forward last week. I mean, a moderate step. He did put the ball on the ground, but are you starting to feel like he's a player you can trust putting back in your lineup?
Yeah, I mean, Henderson has not been good. Kyron Williams is out for probably, I believe, the rest of the season. Yeah, I mean, I don't know who else you can trust there. You might as well throw him in your lineup. And
they re-signed Malcolm Brown.
So again, there's nobody else you can really trust back there. So I mean, yeah, I'd feel fine starting Cam Akers. I think we have to adjust our expectations of what he is. I don't think he's an RB1 anymore, but like a low end RB2 flex play. Yeah, I think he'll be fine. He'll probably get a touchdown.
Dennis, on the flip side for the 49ers, arguably their biggest loss in week 3 was left tackle Trent Williams, who got injured and was knocked out in that game. Seemed to hamper the offense for the rest of the game. He has already been ruled out for week 4. What does that do to this 49ers offense?
Hopefully it lets Jimmy know, get rid of the effing ball like fast. That's going to be a problem. The Rams have a really strong defensive line. Aaron Donald puts incessant pressure on whoever's playing at quarterback. He can beat just about any lineman one-on-one in the NFL. And, it's going to be, Khalil Mack, he's in with the Chargers. Who else do they have on? There's somebody else I'm missing on their defensive line.
For the Rams, they have Aaron Donald. They went and got Bobby Wagner.
Okay. But Donald, I think that's going to be a problem for Jimmy, and he's not known for being super mobile, and if he gets a little skittish from that blindside pressure, that ends up making him move up towards where Aaron Donald is coming from. Jalen Ramsey's playing really, really well. You got Bobby Wagner at the second level. The Rams have a really good defense, and I think it presents a problem for them, for the Niners.
I'm looking really quick, but I think the other one you're looking for is Leonard Floyd. Yeah, Leonard Floyd. I think is their other big pass rusher for the Rams. The Rams have not fared very well against the 49ers in recent regular season history, but I did not like the way the 49ers offense looked last week. I'm going to take the Rams.
Me too.
Same. When you have Jimmy G walking off the sideline saying your effing play calls suck, bro, I feel like I'm gonna go with the guy.
Oh, he did?
Yeah, you didn't catch that?
No.
I don't believe it was audible, but they said like reading his lips. That's what he was saying was like I watched a thing, and if you look at it, it's like I guess it's after like a bad third down play or something like that, and he's walking off the field, and they zoom in on Jimmy Garoppolo, and he's like, "Your effing play calls suck, bro." Like as he's yelling.
So I'll ask you guys this.
Audible. That's what Aaron Rodgers would do.
This week we've seen.
Aaron Rodgers was just saying that, fuck that play call. We're going with what I want to do.
Aaron Rodgers turns the mic off in his helmet. I don't know what you guys are talking about.
I would too.
We've seen this week a little bit of shifting the blame to Kyle Shanahan, who
he deserves it.
Has seemingly started fairly slow. I saw one headline that said the 49ers defense is not being wasted by Jimmy Garoppolo. It's being wasted on Kyle Shanahan. Do you guys think if they lose here, drop to 1-3, and don't make the playoffs this season, do you think he's in trouble?
I think he already should be, to be honest.
I don't know. I think him and Lynch are pretty well established there right now. I think they can sell to ownership. We had a plan. Trey got hurt. The plan is still a good plan. And ownership's like, yeah, you're right. You guys are great. We really like having you here. You want to get some scones?
Where I disagree with that is like Jed York wants to win a Super Bowl. Bad. And they've been close twice now? Once?
Yeah, he went to a Super Bowl and they lost. And he went to an NFC championship game that Jaquiski Tartt probably should have won for them.
The interesting part in both of those for me, it was not the defense that cost them those. It was exactly like what happened in Atlanta, where poor Matt Ryan lost out on his chance for a Super Bowl because of bad play calls by Kyle Shanahan. I think if this was any other coach in this situation, we would be talking about him being on the hot seat. But because it's Kyle Shanahan and we have this allure around behind him, that he's this great offensive mind and he's done all this stuff, that he deserves to continue holding on to his job. I mean, I don't know. I don't. He, for me, hasn't done enough the past couple of years to deserve to continue being a head coach. We've seen a lot of stuff going on with that team, too. I mean, it seems like all of those players really loved having Jimmy G there, then all that stuff with them yanking him, right? It feels very weird to me. I don't know. I think if he doesn't have a good year, I don't think you can sell to me that it's just because Trey Lance went down, because we may not even see Trey Lance back next year. So you're going to have to deal with some backup quarterbacks. You're not going to have Jimmy G there. So how long does Kyle Shanahan's rope continue to be? Like, how much longer does he get before they're finally like, okay, clearly you're not doing it for us. We need to bring somebody else in.
Definitely going to be interesting to watch. Raises the stakes. And the good news for all of us is the Manning cast is available on Monday night. That'll do it for today. Matt and Dennis will be back with you Monday as I am out traveling, but I will be back on Wednesday. Before we head off into this sweet weekend, Dennis, what should the people do?
Should subscribe, download, rate, review, maybe even listen.
Also,